You guys, welcome back. We are taking a look at a video from Lost in the Pond. This is from 2021, so it was a little while ago, but it is 8 American things Britain doesn't even have a word for. So I know, there are plenty of words like you call something one thing and it's different here. So, like, you guys have your biscuits. We have a completely different thing that we call biscuits. And what you would call biscuits, we call cookies. So, I don't know if it's an instance like that or if it's just something that maybe we have that you guys just don't have. I'm sure there's vice versa for this as well, but we're going to take a look at this today. Of course, Lost in the Pond. I will link this video in the description along with links to Patreon and how you can support the channel right here on YouTube. But let's go ahead and check this out.
So it's very important for British people living in America, like me, to know the difference between the shoe brand and something else that Americans call a hush puppy before I put my foot in it, literally in the case of the shoe.
Okay. You want hush puppies?
Hello, I'm Lawrence Brown and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond, and one of those memos pertains to words. And you and I both know this by now. It's often said that Britain and America are two nations divided by a common language. And what does this mean? It means that English is a prominent language in both countries, but that we have different words and spellings and pronunciations for the same things. But what if I told you right here and now that both Britain and America have things for which the other country doesn't even have words? Well, today I'll be looking at a selection of those from the United States of America, a country I've lived in for the past 13 years. Now, as with all things Britain and America, a lot of these words come back to food, whereas some of them pertain to social customs, the law, and America's obscenely large landscape. And so without further ado, here are 8 American things that Britain doesn't even have a word for. Here's a story. Several years ago, my wife took me to the Indiana State Fair. And when I say she took me there, I got absolutely no say in the matter. And even as we stood in line for the world's most famous pig race, I couldn't help but look around me and notice the types of fair food that were on offer. Of course, you had cotton candy, and of course the British do have a word for that. It's candy floss. You had hot dogs, otherwise known in Britain as hot dogs. And then you had elephant ear. And some British people, perhaps even some American people, might be thinking, "Oh, you ate a part of an elephant?" No, thank goodness it's not a real elephant ear. No, this is just a type of fried dough that happens to be shaped like an elephant ear or a frisbee gone wrong. And the reason that I say that some Americans might not recognize this name is that it goes by different pseudonyms. You see, while Britain might not have a word for this, America has plenty. As well as elephant ear and fried dough, it also goes by fried bread. Fried bread, not to be confused with the fried bread that you might find on an English breakfast. Completely different beast. Doughboys, scones, again not to be confused with an English scone / scone, pizza frit, or my personal favourite, frying saucers. And while we're on the subject of American-derived food, that brings us on to this.
I've never heard of that. I've heard of fried dough, but everywhere that I've ever lived, I've never heard it called anything really other than funnel cake, to be honest with you. North Carolina, South Carolina, uh, West Virginia, I believe Georgia. Every time I've ever had funnel cake, it's a very common thing at a fair. It's just fried dough with like powdered sugar on it. It's good. Never heard it called an elephant ear or anything else. So I don't know about that one.
Ah yes, grits. Now on the face of it, grits sound absolutely awful, because when I think of the word grit,
They're
delicious.
delicious.
I think of grit to mean courage and resolve and strength of character, but usually sweat. Or grit as in small bits of stone or sand. Either way, I don't want to eat that. But it turns out that grits, a Southern American dish, is a type of porridge. And I know what you're thinking, Britain, that's ridiculous, Lawrence. We do have a word for porridge, and it's porridge. This is a specific type of porridge and a big deal in the southern United States. But in the unlikely event that you're thinking of moving to the United States just because you want to live where grits is, but you don't want to move to the southern United States because you can't stomach 400-degree temperatures, in my experience, you can get grits here in the Midwest, and I assume other places in the United States. Second thoughts, it'd be easier just to stay in Britain and look up the recipe online. That's something you can't do so easily with this.
So grits, I think I'm not even positive what I think it's like corn that's like I could be wrong. I think it's corn that's like in bits and it's in like yeah, it's kind of like a porridge. It is a big thing in the South, and there's a couple different ways you could do it. I grew up eating it with sugar and a little bit of milk. Um, that's like a faux pas, and in some parts of the US that are like never put sugar in your grits. It's also cheesy grits. You can add like butter and cheese to it, or just butter. Um, I I still like it with the butter and the milk, but in Georgia, I had some cheesy grits, and it was like one of the best things I've ever had in my life. Um, they're really good. It's like a breakfast staple. You can also get it with shrimp and grits.
Yes, Butte. Now, before I go any further, it's probably important, in the interest of not being demonetized, that I point out that this word is pronounced butte. And it's probably quite an appropriate pronunciation because buttes are often beautiful, or at the very least, stunning. Now, some people might be thinking, get to the point, what on earth is a butte? Well, a butte is a very specific type of hill, and this specific type of hill is not commonly found in Britain. It's a type of hill that has a flat top and vertical or nearly vertical sides. Think of the Mitten Butte in Monument Valley in Arizona, or Devil's Tower in Wyoming, or to give it its official name, Richard Dreyfuss's mashed potato. And now that we're 3 words into the list, do you want me to go on to
Never heard of that one, you guys. I mean, I'm not saying he's wrong. It sounds right, but like I've never heard that before or heard anybody talk about that.
number 4? In other words, do you want some more? Do you want some more? Do you want some more? Well, bring it on.
Oh yeah, s'mores are good.
You see what I did there? When I first moved to the United States, I was offered a s'more and I turned it down because I was frightened of what it might be. And then somebody described the content, and my love for them from that moment on only grew, just like my waistline. Of course, Americans know what a s'more is, but this is for my British viewers, i.e. my mum. An official s'more is a roasted marshmallow, right, stuck to a slab of chocolate. Sorry for the noises. And together they are sandwiched between a graham cracker, right?
Yeah.
And if you're wondering what a graham cracker is, it's similar to what the British would call a digestive biscuit, except it's square and Americans pronounce it gram. And because of the fried marshmallow element to all of this, it's perfect to make one while you're camping. And you might be wondering, why is it called s'more with an apostrophe? Because it's a contraction of some more, meaning that my segue surprisingly made sense for once. Unlike this one.
So I would think that a lot of you, maybe my age or younger, assuming it's as big a movie there as it is here, it's like a classic staple from my childhood. My son has watched it since he was little and loves it. But The Sandlot, uh, they eat them in The Sandlot. The kid doesn't know what it is, and Porter, it, like explains it to him and gives it to him. But yeah, it's something every time we go camping, if we have like a little bonfire or whatever in the backyard, you do s'mores.
Bring on the dogs. The word car hop has nothing to do with dogs because that would be mental. Furthermore, a car hop is not a type of car that hops because see previous comment. A car hop is somebody who serves you food, but while you're in your car. Now, of course, it's pretty well known that it's a big part of American culture to order food at the drive-thru, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about drive-ins. Drive-ins are a still lasting remnant of a bygone era here in the United States, where you park your car at the designated drive-in, the car hop comes to you and takes your order, and then brings you your food. And you stay there in this exact same spot right next to the restaurant or cafe or whatever you want to call it. And I personally have come to consider this fine dining even in a Prius. Allow me to do a quick shout out to 2 that I've been to. Recently on my Route 66 journey, I visited the Polka Dot Inn in Braidwood, Illinois. And car hops served me every now and again at Jean's Root Beer stand in Anderson, Indiana. And I am told that in some of the more snazzy quarters of the United States, there are even car hops on roller skates, but they're difficult to find because it's not the 80s anymore.
So car hops, yeah, this is something that's been around, gosh, since the 50s, I think. There's that old movie, American Graffiti, and they feature it in that. It was a old movie with young Richard Dreyfuss and Ron Howard. Um, but where I grew up, it was actually pretty common. There were a bunch, quite a few places that you could do it. There were two hot dog places, both of which still exist, still do it. You park. The person will come out to your car, take your order. If you choose to stay there and eat, you can get it to go if you want to. But if you choose to stay there and eat, they often will bring it out with this tray that is fitted so that it actually fits onto your open car window. So you can just reach over, get your hot dog or whatever. There was also some hamburger and milkshake places that did it as well. But there was like Stewart's hot dogs. Um, I'm trying to think of there was the hamburger place Midway, and there's another hot dog place I'm forgetting, and it's like a huge staple. But yeah, there were quite a few places that did it, still exist, still do it. I've not had it here in North Carolina, I don't think. Um, but they are around. I didn't realize it wasn't like a thing everywhere, but it is definitely still around.
Jaywalking. You may remember that I
Mm.
talked about this very topic a few months ago. I had absolutely no idea what jaywalking was. You know, it was a word that cropped up occasionally in films, but I just assumed it was a sport. I thought this was going to be a big deal, right? You know the joke, why did the chicken cross the road? Well, he didn't because he was too much of a chicken. At least that was the case at first, and after my wife had laughed at me 17 times, I started to get the impression that I might be overthinking this. All of the years that I've lived here, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say, "Ooh, did you see Ashley? I think she was jaywalking. Better call the cops." The reason we don't have a word for jaywalking in the UK is because that law doesn't exist. And funnily enough, despite our difficult relationship with rain and drizzle, we also don't have a word for this.
Yeah, jaywalking is basically somebody crossing the street where there's not like a walkway. Um, or painted walkway on the ground. So if you, typically those are only at the ends of certain streets. So if you happen to cross over, especially more so, it's more about like busy intersect, like, or not intersection, but busy streets. Then it's considered jaywalking. It is crime. I think it's just something that you can get a fine for. I've never known anybody that did. But if like a police officer just wanted to be a dick, they could absolutely write you a ticket or whatever for jaywalking.
Admittedly, perhaps owing to the digital age in which RSVPing or not RSVPing is done at the click of a button, the word rain check is sadly one I haven't encountered very often since moving here. But I do remember it featuring a lot in American films in the 80s, so that's good enough for me. Basically, when somebody takes a rain check, it's to indicate that that person cannot accept the invitation right now, right? But they'd be happy to turn up in the future. And you might be thinking, why is it called a rain check? Does the coming together of people depend on whether or not it's raining? Sort of. You see, it originated in baseball. A coupon might have been handed to a baseball ticket holder when the game was cancelled due to rain. And that would mean that that coupon holder could then attend the rearranged game without being charged. And while Britain also has a sport with a batsman and a lot of players who just stand around for no reason, the term rain check never caught on. Of course, that could also be something to do with the fact that we often turn down invitations in favour of that non-specific thing that we've got going on this weekend. Either way, Britain doesn't use the word rain check, just like it doesn't use our final entry, unless you're talking about shoes.
Yeah, so you would use that like, say somebody's like, "Hey, do you want to go grab lunch?" And you'd be like, "Oh, I've got plans, but I'll take a rain check." So like, it just means we'll do it another day.
That's right, hush puppy. And to me, and admittedly to millions of Americans, hush puppy was and is a brand of shoe. So it's very important for British people living in America,
Well,
like me, to know the difference between the shoe brand and something else that Americans call a hush puppy before I put my foot in it, literally in the case of the shoe. Because in the US, and once again, particularly in the southern US, a hush puppy is, once again, another type of fried dough. Specifically, it's a ball about the size of a clementine of deep-fried cornmeal batter. And it sounds disgusting, but
it's good.
it's not. And if there was nobody around to keep an eye on me, I could
I think it's got
happily eat
onion
50 of
too.
them a day, but I'd
Yeah.
no longer be alive. Put it this way, from experience.
I'm surprised you don't have hush puppies, but it's because it's a common thing that we eat with fish and chips. So of course we don't generally. You can get it called fish and chips, but yeah, there's a lot of like seafood, fast food type places. That if you go to and you get like fish and what we would call fries or whatever, that you get hush puppies with it, and like he said, it's just a little fried corn dough thing, and it usually has little tiny pieces of onion in it as well, and it's good. It's just fried goodness.
They do taste better than the shoe. And how do I know that? Because I was 11 years old once. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below some other things that the other country doesn't have a word for. I'm Lawrence Brown. You can follow me on Twitter at LostInThePondUS, and be sure to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the pond.
All right, that was great. I'm going to end it there just because there's not any more for this one, although this does look like it is a part one, so maybe there's another one, and maybe I could find a video that's kind of the reverse of this, of some British things that Americans don't have words for. So let me know if that's something you guys would like to see in the comments, and thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have an awesome, awesome day.